everyone. Welcome to Hey Stella podcast. My name is Mihaela. I am a proud lifetime member of the Actor Studio and an international acting coach. I want to welcome you to a one of a kind podcast that deals with life lived. And I want to introduce to you.
I am Luana. I am an American Academy of Dramatic Arts graduate and international photographer. I hope you will enjoy our episode and take this ride with us.
Hi, Ingrid Marcus was wonderful to have last episode. But then I thought, who is Luana? For those people who don't know you.
Okay. I'm very nervous right now. I did not expect that, but I know this is how life's with you, so it's perfect. It's beautiful.
We're talking about life imitating art and art imitating life. And we keep praising ourselves for trying to be in the moment and spontaneous and to demonstrate that which we speak of. So you don't have to have any perfect answers. You can take your time. You can think about it.
I'm a 23-year-old young photographer, actress, and dancer. I'm mainly doing photography now because this is how life is right now. But I don't think I'm supposed to do one thing in this life. So yes, mainly right now it's photography and this podcast. Uh, I'm see, this is so interesting. And you see, in photography, it's specifically for me, my experience is to listen to the subject in front of me more than ever. So the subject is the most important person to me, like connecting. If I don't listen to my model or models, if we don't connect, if we don't hear each other, nothing goes right. And because I did this today, I had two different photo shoots with two different strangers, people I've never met, and I've listened to them and asked them questions to make them feel comfortable with me. Now I'm in the position where I have to talk about me. And
you're reversing the roles. You get to be behind the camera, which you just described today, and you have to get to know two strangers, and you have to get to know them really, really quick, because you only have the amount of time of the shooting. And the same thing happens when an actor has to go deep inside of who they are to bring all of that to the character for a 2-hour film or for a 2-hour play on stage. They have to show all of who they are in the story of the character in the 2 hour that they have the opportunity to showcase themselves in the story they're telling through the character. So right now I'm kind of reversing roles, and this is very spontaneous. I just want to make it clear to the public. We did not talk before. You had no idea that I was gonna reverse roles. I want you to continue with telling me your photography journey. How did that happen? That of the photographer.
I used to photograph since I was 13 years old when I got a camera from my parents for Christmas. And this is how I made my first money. And this is how I finally started photographing, thinking I'm gonna meet so many people with my camera because I have a reason to talk to them now. It's not only the sake of meeting people, because that used to bore me and it still does sometimes. And I have a reason. So I'll photograph thousands of faces, I said. I think I photographed thousands of faces by now. And it continued since then. So it's, oh my God, it's 10 years now.
Wow.
I haven't even thought about it until now. It's 10 years of photography. I should celebrate that.
You should.
And definitely. And this is how it happened, because I like the idea of giving. And see, I was thinking about this lately. I don't think I got to the point where I can give people something with my acting yet, because I haven't had the chance since I graduated in 2020. But I can give people something palpable, an experience I can give them through my photography. And I think that's why I'm so addicted to it right now, and do even three photo shoots a day and exhausting myself, but enjoying it. It's because I'm giving an experience. Even like before we started recording, I got a message from a girl that was never photographed by a professional photographer before, and I did portraits of her. And she said, thank you for this experience, I will never forget it. I thank you for letting me be me in front of you. And I live for moments like that. I live for messages like that after a photo shoot. Thank you for letting me be me. I
That is,
and
what else can anybody say that's going to give you more satisfaction than that?
I can't think about anything right now, but I
That's
think
what I'm
that's
saying. I mean, this is at the top. This is like the most impactful. And that takes me to the next question. How are you impacting, even though you've answered it, but how are you impactful? How are you impacting people's lives?
See, this is the kind of moment when you stop for a moment and look back, what are you actually doing? Because I'm so used to be rushing and just do more. This is that moment. It makes me emotional for you asking me that.
Why do you think
I
that emotion is happening?
Because I let myself to stop, just to stop and really look.
Acknowledge.
Mm.
Acknowledge yourself, acknowledge you, celebrate you, because we forget to do it. We are always we're always focusing on doing things for other people, which is wonderful. It's really wonderful. I'm not saying take that back. But before doing great for other people, you have to do things for yourself. You can't have an impactful, extraordinary thing happen to other people unless you're generous and celebratory to yourself. And I think that's why I wanted to kind of do this little introduction, because it's a small introduction, but it's a huge at the same time. Because I feel like sometimes I forget the importance of having someone on the other side to ask questions, and we take sometimes other people for granted. And I was thinking, due to the fact that Jeremy's daughter, Caroline, celebrated getting her doctorate in psychology. There was this beautiful Zoom celebration they had, and everybody had to thank people, for the opportunity to have had the 5 years of college in order to now become doctors of psychology. And they were talking about the impact that they're going to have in society in helping people. And it kind of like made me cry, because I felt that it was such a connection between what they do as psychologists and what we do as artists. Doesn't matter if you're doing it through photography, doesn't matter if you're doing it through acting or acting coach. But that's what kind of brought me to you. And I said, Luana is there to ask me the questions, to get my blood going when I feel like I don't want to have anything to say right now, or I have nothing. Like, who am I to have anything to say? So I was kind of like thinking of celebrating you. So I'm glad that you're pausing,
This is my moment of telling you thank you for letting me be me. Oh,
are you thinking right now how much you have to edit, and I'm putting you in a situation where you have to do a lot of editing?
No, I wasn't very raw. It's such a big question you asked me.
I know, Luana.
Such a big question, because I'm 23. I'm practically a baby. I just learned how to walk.
Exactly. You are given the opportunity to have another 15 years to be wrong. So you have 15 years of trial. And you still have enough life to live big. Today's episode is about making an impact and living big.
I've started a book recently see it's connected, because I felt it's like, you know, that moment when your body, your spirit, your soul, everything feels of treating themselves at the same time with something. And I bought Jordan B. Peterson book, Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. There's one chapter that as soon as I've read it, I started crying.
Why?
And it's called, oh my God, it's called, uh, do not, it says, be grateful in spite of your suffering. And another one that made me cry was, work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens. And I was thinking, be grateful in spite of your suffering. And I've always said, and people around me used to say, Rona, you like kind of sometimes you like to suffer, or you're dramatic for no reason. And I'm always in my head, I'm thinking, no, there's no, it cannot be without a reason, because anytime I am suffering in a way or another, even if it's the smallest thing, I use it for my art, if I can finally call it like that. I use it. I write about it. Yesterday I spent 3 hours in a museum here in Romania, and I wrote a poem about love because I was suffering. If I wasn't to suffer a little bit, I don't think I've wrote that. I don't think I would think of writing that.
I think
And but
that, yeah. No, I know. That's exactly where my episode came in. I was actually having this reflection on people telling me over the last couple of weeks something along the lines of, oh, Miha, you are so powerful and domineering, and sometimes you have to mellow down. And I'm not listening. And then another person says, I feel like you want to take over my project. And then another person, after they asked me to help with the project, and then another person said, you know, you're big, your personality is big. And I was like, what is with all these people? There must be something wrong with me, because they're all kind of saying the same thing. And the one common denominator is me. So I was ready to just go back to bowing my head again. Do you know, like we talked about in the last episode,
yeah,
and apologize. And I said, you know what? Bowing one's head and apologizing is one thing. And I will do that if those people felt that that's what I made them feel was for them. But at the same time, that's who I am. I'm big. I'm huge physically. I'm big personality wise. I have big Romanian peasant from the country personality, and I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm sorry. But if you consider that I am coming into your environment and I'm taking over, what do you need to do next? You have to take responsibility for your adult in you and say, let me see how I can take my power back if you feel that I'm taking it. So for those people, Luana, who tell you, oh, you're a little bit over dramatic, or why are you suffering? Why is the suffering so much? You just got to tell them to shut the F off. Because if they do not know how to take on back their power in that situation, it's not your fault or it's not my fault.
definitely. Oh, definitely. And you said it so well. It happened to me so many times. But you know, I've been thinking this happened to me mostly in America when I was studying at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And first of all, when I was living in the dorms, I never thought this will happen to me, but I had the cultural differences, and they used to call me straight away, you are too forward and no filter. And here in America, we use filters when we say our opinions. But then I said, and they told me, this might be because you come from a different environment, which may be it just has different people, a different way of expressing themselves. And I was thinking while he was talking, exactly as you said, I was looking at them and ready to bow my head, and I couldn't. I just couldn't. It was too ridiculous. And my answer was, but I came here to speak my truth. And
Yeah.
they said, yes. And I'm telling my truth exactly as it is, in the most rawest form. If I'm not true in the acting school, which I have to be right now, which I deserve to be right now, then where I should be truthful.
Exactly. This is going back to making the connection between life and acting. People, when they come on stage or in front of a camera as actors to interpret a role, they think sometimes, they look and they stop and they turn around and they'll say to me as the acting coach, well, he's not giving me what he's supposed to give me in the scene. And I'm like, he's not supposed to give you anything. Who do you think that you are, that you're asking to be given something without earning? Get what you want. Get it.
Yes.
How do you get it from the other person? How do you get it from the other actor? You get it the same way that you do in life, the same as you do in acting, by working for it. You cannot be politically correct. You cannot be polite by doing that. The political correctness that's happening in this country, especially now within the last couple of years on one side of the aisle, and the craziness that's happening on the other side of the aisle, and the gap in between is so huge that this country is going to go to bits. It's going to go to pieces. And it's such a shame because people cannot understand and cannot let themselves be who they really are, because you have people come back with the same comments that you just described and the ones that I just described. Oh my God, Mija, you gotta mellow down. You gotta take it easy. You have to be less dramatic, Luana. You gotta like be a little bit more polite and not be so loud. What for? How many times? How many lives do I have to be able to adjust to what you want me to be? Do you think I have 20 lives so I can be adjusting to all that all people want me to be? Or you have those lives? No, we have one life. And you know what? Marlon Brando said it so beautifully in something that a dear friend of mine from the actor studio, Lou Sandoval, posted. And I was so grateful for him and for that reminder, where he says, live big. People are meant to live big. People are meant to be big. So be big. So the fear of being big and the fear of living big was just completely taken away from me, because I started again to doubt myself, because it's so easy to doubt when you hear more than two people saying the same thing to you. You're like, oh, they must be right. I'm not saying they're not, but take your power back. If you consider that I'm the one that's taking your project away, or I'm taking your power from you, speak up. God damn it. In the moment. Don't wait for a day or 24 hours and then, oh, tell me about it. Speak up, because you're not a child. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about children here. We're talking about adults. So take the power back, because you are asked to do the same thing on stage as an actor. Don't ask the other person on stage or in front of cameras to give you what you want. You have to earn it. You have to fight your fight to get it. So I'm glad that this happened right now. I didn't see this coming, but I'm glad this is what the episode is going to be about. I'm glad this is what the episode is going to be about, because I don't know if you listened yet to the other part that I did. I don't want to talk about it, but people stay tuned after our conversation with Luana. There's a little bit of my interpretation and reflection about living big and examples that I'm gonna give.
While you were talking, I already felt more empowered, and I had a thought in my head. Creators of any kind, people that invent something from scratch, that bring something to the table that haven't been done. It can be an emotion, it can be a story, it can be anything. Creators are leaders. We are leaders of society in a way or another, because we have the power to gather people in a room and listen to us. And trust our words. Even right now, if you think about it, if you reflect about it, we are talking and someone is listening. So if we came up with this conversation about something and we gathered a few years to listen to this podcast, we already leading someone to something, to do something. So if we are leaders, we cannot not be powerful. We don't have time for that. And I remember when I was in the States in my second year of school, and people used to ask me from home, friends from home, the same age as me, was like, Luana, why don't you go out and party? Why don't you go? Why take a break, like you're so stressed, do something for yourself. When I hear this, do something for yourself, it makes me puke, because my understanding of do something for myself is more doing what I'm already doing. And when they ask me to go and relax or party, I don't see the reason to party yet. My reason of being in that country, and I'm sure for many international was the same and will still be and still is to prove myself. I am a leader. I represent my country, and I can represent my country in that big country.
Yeah.
So we are leaders. We cannot be weak. We don't have time to be weak in that
This
way.
is so crazy. Luana, you're going to see this is so crazy, because every time that we come to talk, it's you, without knowing what my reflections were. I happen to like record something that comes to me during the week when you're doing your photography and you're busy. So we don't come together until now, today. But then every time you will start talking about something without knowing what I already recorded. And it makes so much sense. It's always about the same thing. How curious and how extraordinary is that?
I'm getting goosebumps, honestly.
I think it's amazing. I think it's wonderful. I don't even know what to say. I think that the fact that we turned the roles a little bit was quite interesting for me to observe you, and the fact that you were able to come and land on your feet no matter what I throw at you every second does confirm the leadership that you just spoke of yourself to be in. And I am so happy and I'm so grateful that we're doing this together. And I'm just feeling so much more braver and so much more in charge right now than I did before we had the conversation. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you as well, Miha. Thank you for surprising me.
Because I'm sure, as Luana made it so clear, I'm sure even if we change one person out there listening, it's all worth it, Luana. So for that one person, or for many more than one person, stay tuned after the conversation with Luana and myself for the remaining of the episode. Luana, kisses. Mwah.
Kisses. I'm gonna stop it.
Lou Sandoval, who's a dear friend of mine and whom I happened to see one time on the stage of the Actor Studio in New York. He lives in California. I don't know how many years ago, but it must have been probably 5 years ago. I saw him one time do work on the stage of the Sacred Actor Studio in New York, and he blew me away. His work was the most in-depth example of humanity that it would take a whole lifetime to get to know another person at that level. So I met him one time, saw his work, and forever I'm in awe of him. I'm pointing to him because he just shared one of the needed for me reminder. And I think it goes for everybody. Again, this podcast is not just for actors or artists, but this is for everyone. I mean, our humanity before we are actors or acting coaches is the most important. That's the part that all artists have to work on before they decide to work on the characters they're portraying. It's themselves. Their only instrument is the self. So they're more real than anybody else gives them credit. For those people out there who are in very powerful positions and open to learning, because some of them are saying that the real talent nowadays for reality shows are real people. And I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying that we don't love watching real people on television. But if you give a chance to the people before the actors to show their realness, their trained realness, they have to be more real than anybody else, because that's their canvas. That's their only thing they have as the instrument. So they are deep into the honesty. They are deep into the real. They are deep into the truth, more so than anybody else. So please stop misunderstanding acting. Stop. It's been about 2,000 years that people had a chance to understand what it is, and they still don't.
And I'm not yelling at people who don't have to know, but those people who have these powerful positions, who have credentials in talking about acting, to actors, to artists, just please take a step back, do a little bit of learning yourselves, and then continue talking, so you don't make the stupid mistakes that you're making already. There's an interview that Marlon Brando did in 1990 with James Grissom, and it goes like this. The view is better from a greater age. Suddenly, you see the entire line where things were, where things are going, where they veered out of control. The long view. Certainly the mistake I made was to think too small, too safe. I think that life was meant to be big. I think that people were meant to be big. I don't mean through gesture or demands. I mean big of heart and impact. We are here for a very short run of the timeline. And if a mark isn't made, if people aren't helped or moved by what we've done, then we haven't mattered. Show up to matter, not to be liked. Show up to be big. Investigate your heart and the hearts of others to find out what the big thing needed at that time might be. It just brings tears to my eyes because I think the reminder every other day, as I understand the importance of each and every moment, each and every day, sharing of this interview and Marlon Brando's words could not have come at a better time. What I want to focus a little bit on from what he says, and also to make a little bit of a connection with the actors that I work with in my role as an acting coach, usually what I seem to understand and I become aware of is most of the actors, not all, but most of the actors are afraid to live big. Most of the actors are afraid to live big because they are confusing living big with overdoing, overshowing, overacting. Living big and overacting are not the same things. And it's very well made clear in this, just because our society doesn't assume the creativity necessary and the risk taking to say to themselves, if they have a platform, let me open the doors, let me give voice to someone who may not be a famous name at this moment, but they are going to be if only given the chance. I'm saying be successful before they give you the permission to be successful. Don't wait for them to invite you on a platform, so then after that you can concretely say, now I feel like I've arrived. You have arrived when you have been already part of this world, when you, with the worthiness, with the greatness of the mere fact that you've been created by something greater than yourself. So living big is not something that you have to get to a certain age and then give yourself permission to do. Making an impact. Make an impact before you get to be on a platform. Consider that you have the tools now to make an impact. Dream the biggest dreams and live the biggest life, because there's only this moment, people, and my name is going to be acknowledged by other people, and then I'll feel like I've succeeded. I'm gonna wait till I get to the point where my life is going to be a little bit richer financially. I'm gonna make an impact. No. If there's anything that I learned from something that I never had, which was I never had a mentor the same way that I have the opportunity now, and I feel privileged to mentor other people. I never had anyone telling me that when I was in my 20s. You know, it took me so long to give myself permission. It took me so long to stand in my greatness and own it. And I just am saying to everybody out there, do not wait around until some extraordinary thing is about to happen to you, or how many years it's going to take for something that you're waiting for to happen, and then live big. Live big now. Start this moment. Just make that shift. become aware of where is it in your life, beginning with this moment, that you can live big, to feel like you are enough to be able to make an impact. I am already at a point in my life where the time is to live big. Florian Zeller's the guy who wrote and directed Anthony Hopkins in the extraordinary film The Father, said the same thing when he was telling his friends that he was going to adapt his play The Father into a film, and he was going to have Anthony Hopkins play the main character, and he's going to change the name of the character, which was something different, French, to Tony, just because he wants Anthony Hopkins to be able to dig into his personal creative side like he's never done before. Everybody was telling him that he is crazy and that's impossible. How is he going to get the one and only Anthony Hopkins to play his main role in his film? And guess what? He did. And he said the same thing. I told him it's only impossible until it is possible. So for as long as it's not being responded to me by him that he's not going to do it, the possibility is there. So I'm saying the same thing. I haven't had responses that it's impossible. Okay, I haven't had responses, but that's okay. It's still possible. And there is going to be one person that's going to be smart enough and creative enough and risk-taking enough to be able to understand that I have something to offer which is greater than anything that's ever been done out there. And that person will be found. I'm not giving up. I have a lot of life to live big. And in that time, living big is going to get me to the next platform. Definitely. You know, there's so many people who say to me, Mihaela, your life story, you are such a comedian. You're so funny. You should do comedy. You should do stand-up comedy. Or your life should be written. You should write your life story. And maybe I'll do that. But I think, not to sound arrogant, but even if I do sound arrogant, that's okay. I have lived a life that deserves to be told big time. So even if I try to pretend that my life is living it small, it's not possible. I'm already like a big character. I'm already like a big person in a group of people. I'm already coming off as being huge. I have had a couple of experiences, and I'm going to make a little bit of a confession. There were a couple of different people that I've been considering to be friends with, and we've done some collaborative artistic work together, and I was asked to do that. And then what happens to say that they feel that I'm domineering or that I'm taking over the project. I apologize, because if they're all saying that, it must be that they are correct, that I must be the common denominator in all of these people's minds and feelings about me. I took a step back, I took 2 steps back, and I was wondering, and I went back and I apologized, but at the same time I said, you know, I feel hurt, but I think I care so much about the projects that I'm involved in that I want to give it all to make it the best. And sometimes maybe the way that I have conversation with them, or maybe the way that I speak, sounds a little bit commanding. It doesn't come from a bad place. And at the same time, I think they should be also adult enough to be able to take a step back themselves when they feel the feelings that they feel. And I'm not saying they don't have the right to their feelings, but they also have the right to take a step back and say, listen, I know more about Mihaela than to just think that she's wanting to take the project over, or she's domineering, or she wants to control me. So it's their responsibility to take a little bit of a observer's hat when it comes to their own understanding of how and who they are and why they feel that I am taking over their project. Might have to do with some complexes or maybe some things in their own lives that they have to look at. So I'm taking the responsibility that I have to take for my behavior. I don't mean just physically, but physically too. I'm big. I'm from Transylvania. I have the blood of the peasant inside of me. So I'm physically big, but I'm also big in my behavior, in my voice. I've been small for a long time, and I think I'm at a point where that just won't do. It's not satisfying. So for those people who do not want to be around someone who is at the point in their lives to accept someone who lives big in every situation, because living life big means that you live big in every situation or event of that life. So I'm kind of giving myself permission. The confession that I made is the artist in me, and the interviewer is Mihaela, the observer. As we all in acting must have the two. I think that people who think that only the actor inside of them has to be in control during an artistic endeavor is absolutely, completely 100% wrong. The observer, the controlling part of you, the one in control of what is happening, as big a part as the artist. If you just let the artist on its own, then it's going to be chaotic. And speaking of the father and the movie with Anthony Hopkins, there was an interview that he gave with Stephen Colbert. It's really quite wonderful. If you guys get a chance to see it, see it. Stephen Colbert interviewing Anthony Hopkins and Florian Zellers about the father and the process of creativity. It's quite emotional. It's quite personal. It's quite beautiful. Anthony Hopkins talks about the fact that he's in control so much more due to the fact that he plays a character who's not in control. So the less the character has control, the more you, the actor, the observer, actually has to have control. And he gives the example of, imagine if the character is being told that he has to drive a car and he has to drive it completely in a hysterical sense. The person, the character can be out of control, hysterical, but the actor, the observer in the actor has to have so much control so as not to kill somebody in the process of it. I think it's such a mistake when you forget what you're doing on stage, or you forget what you're doing on set when you're shooting a film. You forget what happened to you and you get into this emotional state, and then when the director calls cut or the play's over, you're still in that emotional state and you can't come out of it, and they consider that to be, oh, I must be a great actor. You're not an actor. Don't even call yourself an actor. There was an incident that people who go back a long time to the time that Strasberg was around at the actor studio, I don't remember the name of the actor, but it doesn't matter. But they talk about this actor who was very, very in touch with his emotional side. So he was able to drop, to completely go inside into a place of emotion that was so raw, and it was so grand, and that's so wonderful. He was living big, grand, not gesturing big, but coming from a place inside where the emotion was a glimpse into the humanity like no one's ever seen or where we're afraid to go to, because that shows so much vulnerability before we think it shows power, but I believe it's both. So he was so emotional that he fell on the stage in the end, and the show, the curtain came down, the show was finished, and he couldn't come out of it. And everybody was saying to Strasberg, oh my God, what an amazing actor. Look how he's still in that emotional feelings and expressions. He must be that's a great actor, right? And Strasberg says, no, he's not. He needs to go deal with his emotion and why he's not able to understand that the play is over and stop the emotion. He needs to go to a doctor and take care of that before he comes back to do acting. Acting is not therapy. For people who say acting is my therapy, acting is a healing, is a form of therapy, is a form of healing, but it does not substitute for the real therapy. So please see a doctor. Acting coaches are not doctors, they're acting coaches. So being able to understand the line between the reality and the fictional given circumstances that the character story happens in is the most important thing. And the observer in the actor are two different parts that you must train equally and you must pay attention to equally. One has to be watching over the other and vice versa. You can't just do with one. If you're the observer all the time and you're not the creative person, it means that you're not allowing your creativity, your spontaneity, your artistry to come out. If you're just the creative part and you're not paying attention to the observer, the creation, the artistic side may take you in a direction where you start to distinguish the two realities, that of I am on stage or I am on a set filming, and that of the character story is this one, and that set is becoming a church, or that set is becoming a cemetery, or that set is becoming a mansion.
Yes.
I am on stage or I am on the set of a film. And if that disappears from you, then there's something that's more wrong with you. And acting cannot just heal it. You must see someone. I think that life was meant to be big. I think that people were meant to be big. I don't mean through gestures or demands. I mean big of heart and impact. I love that. People, going back to what I was going to say and talk about, which is being afraid of overacting. So when they are getting into their bodies and they start to make big gestures, they stop themselves in some of the sessions that I've worked with some of the actors, and they go, oh my God, you really want me to go in that direction, because I felt like I was moving my hands too much. And I tell them, if your movement of your body, if your movement of your arms is founded on something that's truthful inside yourself, then you can go as big as God allows you to be. Go big. Stop stopping yourself. Stop considering living big to be acting badly. If you have a foundation to base that big, then let it rip. Move your hands as much as you want. Be as animated as you want. Move around. Do whatever it takes, because right now as I'm talking to you and I'm finding that foundation inside of myself, my hands are moving without me directing them to move. The body and yourself have to come together. You can't just act from the neck up and forget that you have the rest of your body. You have to connect. When you are considering overacting, it is only because you have nothing to sustain it. So if you're going to start making gestures that have nowhere to come from, then that would be overacting. And that's the same with on stage, on set, and in life. When you watch, speaking of, going back to the episode that we had with our beautiful first guest, Ingrid Margus, the beautiful actress from Estonia, and she was talking about the animal that the great actors use for their roles is for this particular reason. It is used in order to allow yourself to open your body, to be able to take the weight of the world and put it on your back as the elephant. It will bring you to discover gestures that you as the character will be able to keep when you bring the elephant to a standing position into the human of the role. And she talked about it last episode. If you guys haven't listened to the other episodes, you can go back on Spotify and they're all available. Hey Stella, the one with Ingrid Marcus was last week, and she talked about how we discovered the elephant and we used the trunk of the elephant. But it started from using the hands to portray for her, Ingrid, what she needed, which was to go into a register with her voice, which was that of a boy. She was choosing to play a villain, the Joker from Batman. So the fact that we started with the hands, I used and I gave her the suggestion for the hands and the animation of the Italian boy is because that's what Ingrid needed. Every actor will need something different in my approach to guide and to suggest different techniques that might work in order to bring their character to life and to make. So for her to let herself go and drop her shoulders and relax into the, so I'm putting her into an uncomfortable territory from which spontaneity comes out of. If you don't go into the uncomfortable, which we talked about also in the last episode with Luana, if you don't go into the uncomfortable, there's nothing that's spontaneous. There's nothing that's surprising that's going to come out of. unless it's uncomfortable. If you go into the known, you will have reactions of usual, cliche, habitual reactions that you've become so accustomed to. So I just want to say that at some point, maybe Ingrid is going to want to share the first try at the Joker after having our session. I was watching it. We were laughing hysterically. We were observing her almost with the question, who is this person? I have never seen her in any of the roles that she's done. I've worked with her through all these characters, and with the Joker, she using the elephant was the one that gave me such a new insight into who Ingrid Margus was. She allowed herself to go into a place within herself that I had never seen before. It was breathtaking. It was scary. It was fun. She was having fun. She was working moment to moment. She was surprising herself. You could just feel the roller coaster that she was on. She was having fun with it. It was just beautiful. It was just brilliant. And meanwhile, she's doing all of this incredible work, and the hands are being used all the time, which she always thought before she played the Joker, that using of the hands is going to be seen by the people, by the directors, by the casting directors as overacting, and she's not going to probably get the job if she does it. And here she is in the Joker using the hands at a speed that's unbelievable due to the foundation to base the use of the hands on. And it makes all the sense in the world. It's just unbelievable. So living big and gesturing big is one when they are sitting on a very strong foundation. Don't be afraid of it. I'm saying this to all actors out there, because those actors who are afraid of it, you are holding back, and you're holding yourselves back. And holding yourself back, holding other people back is not an act of kindness. So being kind to yourself first is the most important, because only then you can start being kind to other people. Be kind to yourselves. Allow yourselves to try things, because if you don't, you're not going to learn anything.
Thank you all for taking this ride with us. Don't forget, we're here every Wednesday, every week.
We thank you so much for listening to us, and we wish for you to share our podcast, Hey Stella, with the world. We wait for you next week. Thank you. Kisses.